I've challenged myself to draw with pen only, no eraser. And in the process, I'm going to share a few techniques with you: asymmetry, scale, composition, tension, detail, and storytelling. I'm going to start out by drawing a diagonal wavy line to create that asymmetry for my composition. Now I'm going to add a little boat right here to start the story, and I immediately make an error. But part of the challenge of drawing this with pen is to accept the errors and just keep on moving. One of those sails is a little bit odd shaped triangle, but that's okay. And when I look at it now later, reviewing this video, it looks just fine. So I'm just adding a little bit of detail here to indicate there's a person maybe tugging on a rope. And that's all I need to add for lines to describe that little part of the story. Next, I'm going to draw the Mer-King, and here I am employing scale as part of my technique to create some dimension in the drawing. The Mer-King will be larger than the other character, which will be a mermaid in the background, and that will create a difference of scale in size between the two characters. Thus, the depth of field is created that way, and there's more dimension to the drawing. You'll feel like there's more space in your drawings if you start to use scale changes in the drawing. It'll actually create that depth of field that you might be looking for. So I've drawn this Mer-King probably 20 times, so it's easy for me to put the lines down in pen and not make a lot of mistakes. If I hadn't practiced that, I would not be able to draw a Mer-King without making mistakes. It just so happens because I've liked drawing Mer-Kings that I've done them many times in my life. And I've also drawn Mer-Kings live on YouTube, and so you can find those videos elsewhere. Lots of practice in order to do that. Now I'm moving on to the smaller Mer character, and I make a mistake right away where I brought that torso up a little bit higher than I should have, and so the face is kind of overlapping the torso, which could create sort of some bend in the torso if you use your imagination. But it was a mistake, and again, I just accept the mistake and move on, because that is the exercise to learn how to not get stuck on perfection and just get the lines down. It helps you build confidence in your drawing if you can accept the mistakes and just keep moving, and then pretty soon something beautiful starts happening in the drawing, and the mistake you made is pretty meaningless. It just doesn't carry much interest because the other beautiful things take over. And so here I'm using a lot of curvilinear lines, and I'm kind of addicted to them because I find that they create movement and rhythm in a drawing. It can be created with other types of lines, but I just happen to love to make curves and spirals in my drawings. So octopus are a great way to employ that, and it worked out great with this subject matter. So this octopus tentacles, they have 8 tentacles. I only drew 7 because I figured one would be hiding behind the body. Now I'm going to also create a little bit of storytelling and tension here, and it was completely without a plan. I decided I wanted to fill in this middle area with some fish, and then I thought, well, let's do a little army of fish. And by putting one of those fish really close to King Triton's face, it created a little bit of tension between the little mini army of fish and the King Triton. And so now I've got a story going in the mind of the viewer, and you can do the same thing. It doesn't take much to create a story with an image that you're drawing. And again, I'm going to add some details As I go here, I'm adding bubbles to the water. I'm also going to be adding scales and lines to the fins of the mer folk. I'm going to add some round details to the bottom of the tentacles they're like the octopus suckers that are on the bottom of tentacles. And then I'm showing here where I add the scales to the mer king. Now, all of these details add interest to the drawing. It draws the viewer's eye in, but how much detail do you need? How accurate in size do you need to be? What you're trying to do with your drawing is say things. I'm trying to say scales on the bottom half of this merfolk body. Do I need to have those scales be exactly the size of how they might be if this merfolk was an actual fish in the sea? Those scales would actually be a lot smaller, but I don't really need them to be because I'm just trying to say scales as I'm trying to say wavy hair here. Do I need to draw every hair on this merfolk's head? I don't. It says scales really nicely. I'm sorry, it says hair really nicely with less lines. And then I decided I wanted it to be a little bit feminine in the corner, so I added some flowers floating in the water. Now I'm going to go down here and add those gripping pads, those sucker pads on the bottom of the tentacles. And again, how many of those would there really be on the bottom of octopus tentacles? Probably hundreds. But I don't need to draw hundreds to describe them. I don't need to draw hundreds to tell you that it is an octopus tentacle. And I can also create some movement by how I place those, because I'm not going to show you just the bottom or just the top. I'm going to show you a little bit of both. And the way I do that is by just having those circles kind of move in and out of each tentacle by dividing it, as you see there. I'm only showing you a little bit of the bottom, and I'm showing you the top too. So now I'm going to add some overall wavy water lines that go throughout this drawing, and it just continues with the idea of adding rhythm to the drawing. So I think it's easy for you to create a story with a drawing, and I think you can add tension just the way I did by putting that fish right in front of King Triton's face. And the little man on the boat tells another story. And what is that mer woman thinking? If this has been fun for you to think about for your own drawings, how you can create storytelling and tension and asymmetry and scale, please hit the like and subscribe button. It really helps my channel. Thanks a lot.